Hi, Dharma friends. This is Paul Roberts again. Today I'm going to talk about emotional obstacles to Shinjin. In a prior video, which I'll post at the bottom, at the bottom of this video, I talked about intellectual obstacles. Today I'm going to talk about emotional obstacles, and I'm going to talk about two members of our online Sangha who have struggled with emotional obstacles to Shinjin. One of them is a person who, growing up, heard a message from his mother, a terrible message actually, that there was nothing that he was ever going to do well. There was nothing he was ever going to succeed at in life. Okay? She really put him down terribly, and so as he grew up, he had this karmic burden which said, I have to prove that my mother is wrong, that I can do things and succeed. So that's who this person was. At the same time, at a very young age, this person began to awaken his aspiration for enlightenment. And so he became a serious student of Buddhism and several other spiritual paths and traditions. But he tried and he tried and he tried, and no matter how much he understood and how hard he tried, he just couldn't conquer his own blind passions, his own attachments, whether they have been cravings or aversions. He couldn't conquer his own delusions and obscurations. He could understand stuff well enough, but he couldn't free himself from the burden of his own ignorance, his own darkness, his own egotism. But yet he kept trying. So when he finally came to our Sangha, this karmic burden was a huge obstacle for him. Why? Because Master Shinjin teaches that even though we aspire for Buddhahood, in this age, it's called the age of Mappo, Japanese, or the age of Dharma decline, or the age of corrupt Dharma, not a single one of us, out of all the beings on the planet, including the greatest Buddhists you can think of, none of us is able to become a Buddha anymore by our own self-power efforts. That's just the way it is. All of the Dharma doors have been shut and will not open to us in a full way so that we can step through those doors and become Buddhism. Can we make some progress on the climb up the mountain of enlightenment by our own efforts? Yes, we can, and many people do. Will we be able to retain our progress and keep climbing until we achieve Buddhahood? No, we absolutely will not. At some point, we will hit the wall, we will fall down the mountain all the way to the bottom, and that's just the way it is. This is fundamental basic teaching from Master Shinjin. We cannot achieve our aspiration for enlightenment no matter what we do, no matter how hard we do it. Now, this person became a member of our Sangha, and so he heard me teach these teachings again and again and again. These are such basic teachings of Master Shinjin, but for some reason, because of his karmic burden, his emotional obstacle, he thought he had to prove to somebody, namely his mother, who's long since gone, that he was going to be able to do this. He was going to be able to attain the gift of Shinjin, which is given by Amida Buddha himself, all by himself. It wasn't going to simply be Amida's grace. It was going to be him doing whatever karmic works he thought needed to be done. And I can't tell you how many Shin Buddhists, sincere seekers, make this very mistake. They simply haven't let go of the idea that there is nothing they can do to achieve their one desire, to attain enlightenment. So they keep trying, and they never really give up trying and start trusting. And so this fellow, he came to the Sangha, he engaged in a lot of Dharma dialogue with me, and he tried to make it seem like he was a person of Shinjin. Now, it was very apparent to me that he was not yet a person of Shinjin. And one of my jobs as a teacher, okay, one of my sacred responsibilities is to say to somebody if they're fooling themselves or they're deluding themselves and they think they have Amida's gift of Shinjin when it's absolutely clear that they really do not. And so I was in the position where I kept having to kind of knock him down, so to speak. It's not that I wanted to do that, but he needed to be disabused of the delusions that he was having. And, you know, he went on like this with me for 5 long years. He actually left the Sangha and came back several times, and he took offense at what I was saying to him. And it was just very, very hard. And I kept saying, okay, you want to try again? And he kept saying yes. But he really never listened deeply to what I was saying to him. And he really never got this idea for 5 long years that he had to let go of everything that he thought that he knew, that he thought that he understood. He had to just let go and just entrust himself to Amida and Amida's vow. So this went on, as I said, for 5 years. And then finally, one day he comes back to the Sangha again after we've had another, kind of a spiritual tussle. And he says, okay. He says, Paul, I get it. There's nothing I can do. There's really nothing I can do to become a person of Shinjin. You tell me what to do, and I'll do what you tell me. Now, this was a radical emotional breakthrough for my friend, because he was no longer reacting to that inner voice from his long-gone mother, which made him try to prove to her that she was wrong, that he could do this spiritual stuff. He finally came to this profound recognition, okay? His karma ripened to the point where he really saw he simply could not do it when it was becoming a person of Shinjin. So he said, Paul, tell me what to do. So I said to him, okay, my friend, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take all the spiritual books that you have, all the videotapes, all the cassettes, all the DVDs, all the pamphlets, anything you have that relates to how to become an enlightened person, whether it's Buddhist or non-Buddhist, doesn't matter. I want you to take all of it and box it all up and close the box with tape like you're going to move, okay? And it's boxed up, it's put away, and stick it in the basement or stick it in the attic or stick it in the back of a closet, but you don't have access to anything anymore. Give it up. Give it all up. And he said, okay, Paul, I'll do what you say. And so he actually did exactly what I said. And then I said, and now what I want you to do is just ask Amida to give you his gift of Shinjin, recognizing at long last, after 5 long and difficult years, that you can do nothing in and of yourself, that anything that you try to do will actually be an obstacle to receiving Shinjin. And it's okay that you can't do it. It doesn't matter what your mother said. This is something of a completely different order. So you can let go of that emotional obstacle and just ask Amida to give you his gift, his inconceivable gift of settled Shinjin, the faith, mind, consciousness that is Amida Buddha's alone. And so my friend did that. And it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks later that he writes to me privately and he says, Amida has given me his gift of Shinjin. And I got to tell you, I get chills up and down my spine, like the hair goes up on the back of my neck. Every time I tell this story or many other stories just like this, because I have seen, not in my own life only, but in the lives of other people, that when Amida calls them and they listen to the Dharma and they finally come to the point where they put everything else aside and give Amida his way, that Amida gives them this same gift of Shinjin, of Shinjin that he gave Master Shinrin and Master Renyo. And so this fellow now, he sure still has his ups and downs in life, just like I do, just like everybody who's a Shin Buddhist does, just like Master Shinrin and Master Renyo had as well. But he is living a life of simple gratitude because he knows beyond all doubt that he is grasped by Amida Buddha, that Amida Buddha has given him his inconceivable infinite store of karmic merit, that he will never be abandoned by Amida Buddha. At the end of this life, at the end of this very life, he will immediately go to the Pure Land and he will immediately become a Buddha. And that is the gift of settled Shinjin. So that's my first story about a person with a very severe emotional obstacle, and how sticking with listening to the Dharma over these 5 years was essential for him to come to the point where Amida was able to slowly lead him along step by step until barriers were just gone. And then once the barriers were gone, the most difficult of all difficulties, coming to settled Shinjin, became the easy path for my friend. Okay, let me take a drink of water. And now I want to tell you a second story about another Dharma friend who's a member of our Sangha. And this person, he also had a terrible, terrible background, a karmic background that left him emotionally broken from the time he was a little child. Turns out that his father was a fundamentalist Christian, and I'm not trying to speak against fundamentalist Christianity because I spent 10 years in that path myself, but apparently he was a very brutal and unloving type of a man, and so he basically ruined his son's mind, his son's heart, and his son grew up feeling totally not just estranged from his father, but when he would contemplate anything having to do with spirituality or religion, he had a real, actual case of post-traumatic stress disorder. And how do I know that? It's because he came to our Sangha, and he introduced himself, and I started talking privately with him a little bit. He started to share his story, and then all of a sudden he would just bolt. He would leave the Sangha, he would quit, and I wouldn't hear from him. And then he would come back and he would try to talk to me some more, and then once again he would have a PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder episode, and he would literally run away. Okay? And this happened over and over again. I mean, he would just come and stay and try to talk to me, and he'd freak out, okay? He'd be full of terror and anxiety, and all these things, and he would run away and quit the Sangha. Then he would come back and join again. And, I knew how troubled he was. I really understood from what he said to me. I could really understand it. And Amida let me understand this. And I never harassed him or harangued him because I knew that he was, overcome by these emotional obstacles that were the karmic product of his upbringing. But he kept coming back. Sometimes I didn't hear from him for a week or a month or even 6 months or a year, but he kept coming back, and he kept talking to me a little bit. Or then he would just sit in the corner and not say anything, but he would just listen to the Dharma dialogues that we were having. Or he would go read something from one of our core texts, or he would go read something in our Shin Buddhist library that we have written to help people understand things. And he just kept listening, and he kept listening, and little by little, little by little, he became less skittish, less terrified. And Amida was healing him. Little by little. He wasn't a person of Shinjin yet, but he was opening himself little by little to the light and the light of Amida Buddha, who is the Buddha of infinite light and infinite life. And so at this point, my friend, he's been around, I guess, for about 7 years, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know if he's quite at the place where he has received Shinjin yet. But boy, he is right there. He is like an apple ready to fall from the tree at the slightest breeze. Okay? He is a totally different person than the person he was when I first met him 7 years ago. He really opens himself up to Amida Buddha. And, you know, we may have to have a couple more conversations. It may take him another year, 2 years, I don't know. I'm not in charge of anything here. Okay, I'm just trying to be a good steward of the teaching and help people who want me to help them. But this person has gone from such total darkness in his spiritual life because of his emotional abuse to a place where he can really have a conversation and not run away, to a place where he can actually praise Amida Buddha on his own Facebook page. And it makes me so happy to see. It's not that I healed him of his emotional obstacles and his emotional abuse. I'm not powerful to do that kind of thing. That's not something I could do. I don't know that anybody who's a Buddhist could do that for him, okay? But simply by continuing to listen deeply to Amida Buddha, listening deeply to the true teaching of the Pure Land Way, the teaching of Master Shinrin and Master Renyo, simply by coming back every time he has run away, Amida Buddha has step by step been healing him of his deep, deep emotional scars and emotional obstacles. And so what I'm going to close with is this. So many people, because this is a Saha world, there is so much darkness, there is so much confusion, there's so much ignorance, there is so much evil, there is so much delusion and obscuration, that it's very easy for us to have emotional obstacles to the Dharma based on our upbringing in this life. That's not to blame anyone who's a parent, but it's just so easy for this to happen. Because we're all basically foolish people. This is Master Shinrin said. The cute sounding Japanese word is bamboo, but it means spiritual idiots, foolish people. And so we all do many things in our lives, in our marriages, in our relationships, that are not enlightened. You know, they're unenlightened. Okay? And so as a result, if we have children, our children can grow up with great emotional scars, emotional obstacles. And how do you get rid of those emotional obstacles? You simply entrust yourself and your karmic destiny to Amida Buddha and his primal vow. And if you have trouble trusting, you do the best you can. You spend a little time with Amida every day, if you can, okay? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour, whatever it is. You spend a little time reading some of our core texts every day, a little bit of time, if you can. I typically recommend to people that if they're going to spend a certain amount of time, they spend most of the time simply being with Amida, and then the smaller amount of time studying, because you don't get Shin Buddhism by studying. You get Shin Buddhism by being with Amida and allowing him to open your heart, open your mind, heal you, do whatever it is he needs to do. You don't even know what it is you need him to do. I don't even know what it is either. But Amida knows. And so if you're going to spend, let's say, a half hour a day, if you have that much time to spend, I would say spend 10 minutes reading and spend 20 minutes with Amida Buddha. If you only got 10 minutes a day, I would spend 3, 4 minutes reading. You can just read one letter from Master Renyo, or a little bit from the Tanisho, and then spend 6 or 7 minutes with Amida Buddha. Okay? This is nothing fancy to do. You're letting go and you're letting Amida so that he can actually help you in a way that you could never help yourself and that I could never help you either. Okay? So that's about it for emotional obstacles. It's amazing how Amida Buddha heals our emotional obstacles, and so we can receive finally the gift of Shinjin, because finally we're ready to stop trying to secure our own salvation in any way whatsoever, our own Buddhahood in any way whatsoever. We stop trying, and instead we start trusting. And if we don't know how to do that, we can just ask Amida to help us. Amida, I don't know how to trust anybody, really. Help me to entrust myself to you. Help me to entrust myself to your karmic vow. And I promise you, I guarantee that if you will do that every day, you will see amazing changes in your life as you entrust yourself to Amida and his primal vow. And the end of those changes is you will receive the inconceivable gift of Amida's Shinjin, and your life will never be the same. Okay, that's about it, Dharma friends. I will have one more video to talk to on this subject. The first was on intellectual obstacles, the second is emotional obstacles, and the third video on this subject of obstacles will be spiritual obstacles. So until then, Namu Amida Butsu.